it's time to go over some of the finer details.
Birdy was released on December 21st, 1984, right in time for the Christmas season. It's a good, feel-good movie for the holidays. Had a budget of $12 million, but made $1.4 million. Catastrophic box office bomb, which is kind of sad. But at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
Who's going to the theater to watch Birdy? I feel like it's kind of like an indie film, art house film, which the director, Alan Parker, that's kind of his thing is sort of indie kind of art house pieces that sort of stand alone as their own thing, though there are a few like kind of mainstream things in there. He is a 19-time BAFTA award-winning English director, responsible for legendary films such as Bugsy Malone, Fame, Midnight Express, Mississippi Burning, and Evita. He also directed the concert film for Pink Floyd's The Wall, which I watched on repeat as a kid, especially a teenager when I was like really getting into music. I watched that shit all the time. There's a lot of hallmarks that, kind of feel like The Wall in this. A lot of like kind of artsy, weird stuff. And then there's also a lot of things that are just kind of like feel Pink Floyd-esque, like the opening where he's being brought in on the gurney and you just hear random voices in the background talking and stuff. That just feels like something out of a Pink Floyd song or out of that film. He's won 6 Academy Awards and also won the grand prize at Cannes in 1985 for a film called Birdy. Just kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know. It's a very I feel like there's a ton of symbolism and there's a lot going on in this film that we're probably going to kind of gloss over. I feel like it's one of those types of films that you could study, but it's also on the surface a really fucking weird movie. This was actually based on a book written by William Wharton, who actually didn't start writing until he was 50 years old.
Damn.
Never too late to start. Ended up only writing 8 books, 3 of which were turned into films. One was called Dad with Jack Lemmon and Ted Danson. And the other one was called Midnight Clear, which was a critical hit but bombed at the box office. Similar to this. It's kind of a theme. Kind of these think piece films. I remember watching Dad, which when I looked it up for this, was pretty hated by the critics. But I remember it being a heartbreaking movie and I watched it as a kid, so maybe it was different, but it's kind of like watching your dad deteriorate in front of you, which I think we can all identify with. But yeah, I remember watching it as maybe like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid and then being heartbroken then. I wouldn't even be able to watch it now, I don't think. And screenplay was by Sandy Krupp and Jack Baer. Krupp only wrote a handful of things after this, mostly TV, and Baer went on to write 1 episode of Homicide: Life on the Streets. That's it. That's all they wrote.
About a kid that thought he was a bird that got murdered.
He jumped off a building. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess most of the source material was from William Wharton's book, but I did see a lot of things where they were like, people thought that the book was kind of unadaptable to a film. So these screenwriters did a good job of bringing it to the film and then never got work again after this. You win the grand prize at Cannes Film Festival and then you don't get any work after that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
This was shot by Michael Saracen, who just recently retired in 2021, but has worked with Alan Parker on a ton of his films. But he also shot Rambo Part 3, which could not be further from Birdy.
Hey, they had action moments in this.
There's some action, yeah. There's helicopters, yeah. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And then he also worked with Matt Reeves on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. So pretty wide variety of films there. Seems like mostly worked in action outside of Alan Parker. I love those fucking new Apes movies, man. Matt Reeves knocked it out of the park with those. Especially those last two. I feel like the first one was a little not quite on the same level as especially Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And then edited by Gary Hambling, who is also British, worked on 49 films from 1956 to 2003. I believe he edited every single Alan Parker film. I didn't go through and make sure, but I saw his name associated with pretty much every Alan Parker film that I'd ever heard of. Gary Hambling was nominated for 6 Oscars, but somehow is also responsible for editing one of the worst movies that has ever been made, Leonard Part 6 with Bill Cosby. 6 Oscar nominations, but ended up doing Leonard Part 6.
Awesome.
I don't even know how that's possible. And then music by legendary Genesis musician Peter Gabriel. Yeah, that's right. The guy who wrote Sledgehammer wrote the music for this movie. He, of course, was a founding member of Genesis before going solo and then having a pretty legendary career of his own. He is still touring at 74. Still, I think just as recent as last year, did a tour. And then outside of Birdy, he also did the music for The Last Temptation of Christ with William Dafoe, and Martin Scorsese. Ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, this film has a 84%.
Oh, God, ow.
7.3 out of 10. Only 45 reviews. Like we've said many times, they kind of have to go back because Rotten Tomatoes didn't exist in 1984. So they kind of have to judge what the rating was based on the write-up by whoever gave the rating going back in time. But 84% is, I mean, out of 45, what's that, like 41? Something like that, which is pretty good. I mean, those are 6 out of 10s or better. So doesn't mean everybody was like, this is the best fucking film I've ever seen. It just means they gave it a 6 out of 10 or better. And then the audience score was an 83%, which is kind of confusingly high for an arty film like this. Though I feel like if you're going to watch Birdy, you're probably going out of your way to watch Birdy. So you're kind of knowing what you're going to get into. Metacritic score is a 71%. I feel like that's good for a Metacritic score based on some of the films we've talked about in the past. Letterboxd, they gave it a 3.7 out of 5, which seems high for Letterboxd as well. Those are probably a lot of people who went back and watched it recently, you know. Somebody who's going to watch a movie from 1984 that's kind of an art house con film festival type movie probably would respect the art and the symbolism and the care put into the film. IMDb gave it a 7.2 out of 10, which is also very high for IMDb, and then did not get a cinema score, pre-cinema score, I believe. Though we have had some films that were pretty early, like 80s, that got a cinema score, but maybe not this far back.